Welcome to Introduction to Meetings in Microsoft Teams. My name is Thomas Binder. I'm a Senior Program Manager in the Teams product group. Before we dive deep into the content, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you're looking for additional resources, more modules like this can be found at aka.ms/Teams Academy. If you have any feedback specifically to this session, please go to aka.ms/Teams Community, create a new post, and use the IT Pro training label so that we can easily find your feedback. If you have, however, any feedback on how Teams behaves and what features are available, please go to microsoftteams.uservoice.com and vote on existing ideas or add new ideas. Please also note that Teams and Office 365 evolves constantly. On a regular basis, we add new features and functionality, and it's very important to stay up to date. Please go to aka.ms/Teams blog for our blog to get the latest and greatest about Microsoft Teams. Also, on this slide, we outline when it was recorded and updated last time. After this session, you will hopefully know the following things. In Teams, meetings just work. They are enabled by default and provide a rich set of capabilities for users to meet online from various different devices. You will also be aware that networking has a high impact on the user experience, and it's really important to get this right so that the users have the best experience possible. This is the agenda for today's session. We will talk about meetings, what are meetings, what can they provide to your users, what are the features. We will be talking about how you as an IT pro can plan for meetings, how you can configure meetings, and finally, how you can manage meetings. Please note that the scope is really giving you an overview for planning and deployment for meetings. However, there are a lot of additional things that you can do with meetings that we won't cover, that we will cover in dedicated modules. Meeting rooms and cloud video interop, live events, detailed planning on networking, and detailed planning on meeting configuration will be covered in other sessions, as well as call quality dashboard and call analytics deep dive. Let's get started. What are meetings? Let's start with a scenario. This is Alice. Alice is a project manager in your company. She needs to sync with the project team on a regular basis to get the latest status. Since the project team works from different locations, it's difficult to get everyone in the same room. So she schedules a Teams meeting. In Teams, she uses the pre-meeting experience to sync with the attendees up front. So they can use the chat to discuss the agenda, they can share files such as PowerPoints that can be reviewed before the call. And they do that so that everyone gets into the call prepared as good as possible, not to waste any time during the call. Then, once the call starts, members join from all different devices. Alice, she joins from her Mac. Bob joins from the Android phone, and some other users who are actually in the office location, they join from a Surface Hub. They have all kinds of conversations, they use the chat to share links, they use audio and video to have a very immersive experience, and they can also share the desktop so that they can show stuff to each other. Also, they are recording the meeting so that other users can consume the recording later. And this is exactly what happens here. So here's a user, and she was not able to participate in this meeting because she was in a different meeting at the time, maybe meeting with a client. So she can now consume the recording, but she can also look at the chat that was shared during the meeting, and with this post-meeting experience, she can stay up to date without needing to attend the meeting. Also, the post-meeting experience, the chat, can be used to further collaborate and discuss things in the context of the meeting while the meeting has already ended. This slide illustrates how you can meet better with Microsoft Teams. You can organize, prepare, and follow up more easily by using the pre and post meeting experience. You can be more engaged and productive by easily joining meetings, sharing content from desktop or mobile devices, and bring your meetings to life with face-to-face video. And meetings just work. Great quality and great reliability, joining from desktop, mobile, phones, or rooms. You can also invite external users to join your meetings. All of this is built on the foundation of next generation Skype infrastructure: Exchange, SharePoint, Stream, Microsoft AI, Cortana. Let's take a look on meetings in action. Here you can see Megan's Teams client. And this is just a regular Teams client, so she just started Teams, looks at her channel, sees some information. But as you can see here, on the left rail, there's this meeting button. Once she clicks on the meetings button, once Megan switches to the meetings view, she can see on the left the agenda for the day and what meetings are on today. As you can see, there aren't any. Nevertheless, for the next upcoming meeting, she sees all the details on the right side. But now let's see how Megan can schedule a new meeting, and for that she just presses the schedule a meeting button. The following dialog will come up. She can choose a title, a location, start time and end time. If this is a repeat call or one-time occurrence, she can also use a scheduling assistant. She can specify time zone and provide additional details such as an agenda. She can also choose to create this meeting as a channel meeting, and we'll cover in a couple of slides later what the exact difference is between the private meeting, that's not in the channel, and the channel meeting. And then she can also invite specific people or a distribution list if she wants to. So she specifies everything that she needs to, and then she presses the button to schedule the meeting. Now that this meeting has been created, it's on the calendar. You can see here all the details about this meeting. You can see the title, the time, the duration, the location. You can see who is the organizer of the meeting and who are the attendees. And very convenient, you can also see the status of the attendees if they have accepted, declined, or just not responded yet. And this is visible not only to the organizer, but to all attendees. You can also cancel the meeting from here, or very important for the pre-meeting experience, you can start a chat with all participants. And that's the place where you can discuss the agenda, discuss any things that you want to bring up, share any files that people should review beforehand. Also from this dialog, you can use the join button to join the meeting. This is what the pre-meeting experience looks like. It just looks like a regular chat because it is a chat. You can have your conversations there, you have files and meetings notes, and it shows up in your chat view in the client. As you can see here, Megan decided to upload a PowerPoint, said please review the attached PowerPoint before today's call, so that everyone comes prepared to the call. Also, you can join the call right from here using the join button. And this is what it looks like once Megan decided to join the meeting. Before you actually are placed in the meeting, you can turn on and off your video. You will see a preview of yourself to, well, make the best decision if you want to show your video or not. You can mute or unmute, or you can change devices here. Once you're ready to join the call, you can press the Join Now button and you will be placed in the meeting. This is now the meeting. As you can see, Henrietta already joined the meeting. You can also see here a number of controls that you can use to show your video, mute or unmute, share your desktop, and a couple of other things. Then, in the upper right corner, you have a couple of icons that allow you to take notes, to manage participants, or to access the chat. Here, you can see Megan sharing a slide deck that they can now discuss during the call. Also on the right side, you can see the chat that is now visible, and Henrietta obviously apologizes for being late to the call. This is now the post-meeting experience. You can see the whole chat that was shared during the call, but you can also see here that there was a recording done in the meeting. And this recording is now available from everyone who is part of this weekly team call and can be started right here from within Teams. Now, after seeing the scenario and the demo and understanding how useful meetings in Teams are, let's do a drill down on some of the features. As mentioned before, in Teams, you can have either channel meetings or private meetings. A channel meeting exists within a channel. so it's visible to all the channel members and the pre, during and post experience stays in that channel. You can add non-team members to a channel meeting, but they won't have access to the chat since it's visible only to members of the team. Channel meetings can be scheduled from the Teams client meetings view or from an existing channel conversation. You can also start ad hoc channel meetings from an existing channel conversation where instead of replying with an answer, you just reply by creating a meeting. Private meetings can be started ad hoc from an existing chat conversation with the chat participants. It's visible to invited people only, and the pre, during, and post experience is accessible via chat. You can schedule private meetings from the Teams client or the Outlook add-in. This slide illustrates the meeting lifecycle. The pre-meeting experience, where you can have contextual conversations in Teams, where you can prepare and discuss content and schedule the meeting. During the meeting, where you can have video, you can follow the action, you can share content, you can record the meeting with transcription, and you can join from meeting rooms very easily. And then the post-meeting experience, where you can play back a meeting with transcription, you can share notes, and you can do post-meeting chat and collaboration as part of the meeting chat. For meetings, we have different meeting attendee types. And depending what type of attendee you are, you will have different permissions and options. We differentiate between the following meeting types. Internal users, so these are basically for Contoso, all users of Contoso. They have a user account in the Contoso tenant, so all of them are internal users. Then there are guest users. Guest users, they are invited as a guest to one or more teams, so they have a guest account in your tenant. Federated users are users of a different company where you have federation configured between both companies, and both companies are using Teams. So Contoso invites someone from Litver Inc. To a meeting. They can join then as a federated user. And then finally, there are anonymous users. These are users who don't have an account at all or an account in a tenant without any federation configured. It's important that at the join time, the attendee type is determined and you cannot change that. So let's assume there's a federated user and they're using Teams from a PC that they usually don't and they forgot to sign in. They join now the meeting, they will be treated as an anonymous user. If they want to join the meeting as a federated user, the only way is to leave the meeting, sign in and join again. Now they will be considered as a federated user. So you cannot promote users from one attendee type to another one. Depending on the meeting attendee type, the experience in the meeting will be a little bit different. Starting with meeting join. Who can join a meeting and directly and who will have to wait in the lobby depends on the meeting attendee type. Per default, only internal guest users can join meetings directly. However, this is an option in the meeting policy that can be changed for everyone to join a meeting directly, or internal guest and federated users to join directly, which means that only anonymous users won't be able to join directly. Within a meeting, everyone but anonymous users can mute and remove others, admit users from the lobby to a meeting, start a meeting, which is configurable by policy, or dial out, which is also configurable by policy. Recording, if enabled, can only be initiated by internal users. For the pre- and post-meeting experience, internal and guest users have full access to chat. However, if this is a channel meeting, they will only have access to chat if they're part of the team. Anonymous users cannot see any chat at any time. Federated users can, if the tenant is located in the same region, see the chat as soon as they join the meeting and will continue to see it after the meeting in the post-meeting experience. Federated users with tenants in a different region won't be able to see any chats. However, this will change in the future. As already mentioned, there's quite a number of meeting clients that you can use to participate in meetings. From the desktop, you can use the PC or Mac client, or you can use the web client. From mobile, you can use our clients for Android and iOS. You can use desk phones if they're signed in into Teams. You can use regular PSTN phones if you're using audio conferencing, and then you can dial in or dial out to and from meetings. You can use room systems if they're running Skype Room System v2 or Surface Hub. And with Cloud Video Interop, you can integrate with existing room systems. So now that we know what meetings can do, let's take a look how we can plan for meetings. We want to look at licensing, Exchange dependencies, the Outlook add-in, meeting delegation, recording, and networking. From a licensing perspective, meetings is included in almost every Teams license. The only exception is the F1 license that doesn't include meetings. If you want to do audio conferencing, the ability to dial in and out from PSTN phone numbers, you will require additional licenses. You will need either the E5 license that already includes audio conference, or you need an add-on license that's available for E1 and E3. Please note that we will not go into detail of audio conferencing in this session, but we will have a dedicated module that will cover audio conferencing. Microsoft Stream is required for the ability to record meetings, and you will require also licenses, which is basically everything but the F1 license. Please note that both the meeting organizer and the user who initiates the recording need to have the appropriate license assigned. If some or all of your users are using Exchange on-premises, there might be some limitations depending on what Exchange version you're using. Please note that we're listing here only limitations that are related to Teams meetings. There might be other limitations that we're not listing on this slide because we are here just talking about meetings. So if your Exchange version is older than 2016 CU3, users will not be able to see the meeting tab in the Teams client. That means they won't be able to schedule or view meetings from within Teams. So if these users want to schedule a meeting, they will have to use the Outlook add-in. If you want the users to be able to schedule meetings from Outlook, they will have to install the Teams desktop app on their PCs. Once they have installed it, the Outlook add-in should show up for them and they can schedule meetings. On the Mac client, the Outlook add-in is currently only available in preview via the Office Insiders program. Outlook web app and mobile client, well, it's still work in progress. Eventually, the ability to schedule Teams meetings will show up. Alternatively, you can schedule meetings from the Teams client. Meeting delegation allows users to schedule meetings on behalf of other users. In order to do that, you need to configure someone as a delegate in Outlook. Please note that there are a couple of requirements. First, you need to have Office 2013 or higher. Second, you need to use Exchange Server 2013, 2016, or Exchange Online. In addition, the boss and the admin needs to be in the same environment. That means they need to be both on premises or both online. If they are online, they need to be in the same tenant. Meetings on behalf of another user can only be scheduled with the Outlook Teams add-in. In the following slides, we will be looking at the media flow that we need to understand to plan for networking. There are a couple of different components that you need to understand. First one is the meeting service. The meeting service lives in Office 365 in our data centers where Teams is deployed. And it is used to mix and distribute media. So all the incoming audio, the video, the application, desktop sharing. And then we have each of the endpoints. Users working from home, users working from a customer, users working from your enterprise network. They will send all the media they are going to share. If they're doing audio, if they're doing video, desktop sharing, all of that is sent from them to the meeting service. And each client receives from the meeting service the media that they are consuming. So the video of the other users, the audio coming in from other users, and if someone else is sharing, the desktop sharing. If you want, you can consider a meeting as a number of one-to-one calls between each of the meeting participants and the meeting service, with the meeting service in the middle, mixing and distributing media. In Microsoft Teams, meetings will be served local to end users. And that means that a meeting will always be homed in the data center closest to the first user joining. And that's really a huge benefit. If you are a multinational company on multiple continents, independent of where your tenant is located, users will always have the meeting in region. So if I have a US tenant, but my users join from Europe, this meeting will be homed in Europe, and that means less latency for these users compared to if the meeting would be homed in the US. Now, this is an example. In example 1, we have a US tenant with US users. Here are our users. They connect over the internet, the public internet, or if they chose to deploy express route, to the closest peering point of the Microsoft Global Network. The Microsoft Global Network is a high-speed network that was designed and is operated to provide Microsoft services to customers. It's free of charge to be used for all Office 365 customers. So if this user now needs to connect to a Teams meeting, they have a very short leg on the public internet, and then the majority of the network path will be on this highly optimized Microsoft Global Network. Since here the user is in the US, the first user joining, this meeting is now hosted in the US data center. Other users join as well. Same here. They go to the closest local peering point and then connect over the Microsoft Global Network to the meeting. We have a US tenant with European users. So the tenant is still a US one, but now my users are all in Europe. Microsoft Teams, the meeting location will be in Europe. So users again connect over the public internet to the closest peering point, and from there they connect to the meeting, having a meeting local in region. When planning for networking, you need to think about the following 3 networks that are used. First, on the very left side, there's the on-premises network. So this is the user sitting in your company on your enterprise network. And in order to send all the traffic to Office 365, first, the real-time media needs to traverse your internal network. You have complete control over your internal network, and you should configure it in a way that it meets the requirements for Microsoft Teams and the traffic is prioritized accordingly. Then you have this interconnect network. This might be the internet or express route if you chose to deploy it. And this is really your internet provider connecting your enterprise network to the Office 365, the Microsoft network. And while you cannot configure it or change it, you have some influence over it by either switching to another internet provider or working with your internet provider to optimize the peering with Microsoft. You should work with them that they have as few hops as possible and route you as directly as possible to the Office 365 network. And then we have this Office 365 network, this Microsoft managed global network, low latency, optimized for the use with Microsoft Teams. For meetings to work correctly, you need to open a number of IPs and FQDNs on your firewall. All of these IPs and FQDNs are documented, and you can go to aka.ms/o365ip to find a list of all the IPs and FQDNs. Also, you need to open port 80 and 443 for all the signaling that Teams is using. For the media, you need to open the UDP ports 3478 to 3481 and TCP 443 as a fallback. Please note that for real-time communication, UDP will always be preferred and will provide a much better experience than TCP. Please be sure that you enable UDP traffic. So if you have any proxy servers that might enforce TCP traffic or any other network equipment that might prevent your users from using UDP for the real-time communication, change your configuration so they can use UDP. UDP will give users the best user experience. Microsoft provides different tools for network planning. To plan for the quantity so that you have sufficient bandwidth, you can use the network planner. Go to aka.ms/network planner and you will be guided through a process where you can define your sites, your user personas, and so on. and it will tell you how much bandwidth you should be planning with. In terms of quality, the latency, the packet loss, the jitter, the ports and IPs, you can test them with the Skype for Business network assessment tool, aka .ms/network tool. And don't get confused by the name, it applies to Teams as well. We are also creating a dedicated session on network planning that will walk you through all the networking details and the planning steps in much more depth. Now, let's talk about meeting configuration. A couple of concepts for configuring meetings. First of all, there are meeting settings and there are meeting policies. Meeting settings are global and apply to all users to all meetings. Meeting policies can be assigned per user. The default is that there's a global policy that is applied to all the users. Unless these users have assigned a specific policy, then the specific policy will be used. It's always the meeting organizer's meeting policy that will be applied to a meeting. So if the meeting organizer has certain rights, then all attendees will be able to use the same features and functionality. Meeting configuration policies, they can be configured in the Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center. You can use the UI there, or you can configure all of that and assign it via PowerShell. You can configure the following meeting settings. Again, they are global and apply to all meetings. You can allow or block anonymous participants to meetings. You can customize the meeting invite, and you can specify some network-specific settings like QoS markings and customize port ranges. Please note that customizing meeting invites and the networking settings are currently for Skype for Business only. The meeting policies are assigned per user. That means you can create meeting policies that allow more features and others that are more restricted, and then assign it as required to users. You can configure how users can schedule meetings, if they can do ad hoc meetings, if they can use the Outlook add-in, if they can schedule channel meetings or private meetings. All of this can be enabled and disabled. Our recommendation is to enable all of it to give users the maximum of opportunities to collaborate, but sometimes customers have requirements to limit the one or the other. For audio and video, you can allow and disable features like transcript, recording, or video in general. You can set bandwidth limits. However, this feature currently applies only to Skype for Business. And you can configure content sharing. If users should be able to share entire screens, only the app, or disable sharing completely. You can configure who should be allowed to request control, internal users and/or external users. And you can disable features such as PowerPoint sharing. For participants and guests specifically, you can enable or disable anonymous users to dial out from meetings or to be able to start meetings. And you can set up how the lobby works. If everyone should be automatically admitted to a meeting, everyone in your organization, or everyone in your organization and in federated organizations. In the following section, we will look at how to manage meetings. The Microsoft Teams User Activity Report, located in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, allows you to see the user activity, and that includes a meeting activity report that shows you how many meetings have been done in your environment in the last couple of days. You can also see details on users and export those to get a better understanding which users scheduled how many meetings. If you want to look at meeting quality, there are two tools that you want to use. One is the call quality dashboard. It gives an aggregated view on call quality, and you can slice and dice the data as you need to. So you could look at quality per building or subnet, or any other metric that makes sense to you. And you can use the call quality dashboard to proactively identify any quality issues. So you could be looking for the worst performing sites and then see how you can improve quality in these sites. Call analytics, on the other hand, allows you to look on individual calls and see what the quality for a certain call was. And this can be used reactively to troubleshoot individual calls, for example, if a user tells you that they had a bad experience. Please note that we're going to create a dedicated module on meeting quality that will dive much deeper into these two tools. Summary. Now, after consuming the session, you should understand that meetings in Teams just work. They provide you a rich set of capabilities that allow great collaboration from no matter where you are or which device you're joining. You should also be aware that the network has a high impact on the user experience. If you want to learn more, please go to aka.ms/Teams Academy to find more modules like this one. If you have any feedback for this particular session, please go to aka.ms/Teams Community and add the IT Pro label when you create a new posting so that we can easily find it. If you have any feedback for features, how Teams behaves or what you can do in Teams, please go to microsoftteams.uservoice.com and vote on existing ideas or submit new ideas. As said before, Teams evolves all the time. We are adding new features and functionality. Please go to aka.ms/Teams blog to stay up to date and learn the latest and greatest. Thank you. This concludes today's session.